All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most powerful messages ever delivered about courage and, what it really means to show up in life. And yeah, it's over 100 years old, but you're about to see why it might be more relevant right now than ever before.
But let me just start with a question for you. When you're trying something new, something that's really difficult, whose judgment do you worry about the most? Whose opinion actually matters? Well, let's find out where the best answer to that question really comes from.
So our story kicks off not on some grand battlefield or in a stuffy political chamber, but right in the heart of Paris, with a speech that would go on to become absolutely legendary.
Okay, so picture this. The date is April 23rd, 1910. The former U.S. President, Theodore Roosevelt, he's standing in front of a crowd at the Sorbonne in Paris. He's there to give a speech called Citizenship in a Republic, and a tiny little piece of this speech is about to echo through history.
Now, to really get the power of his words, you have to understand what was going on. This wasn't just some random speech. Roosevelt was a huge believer in what he called the strenuous life, this idea that a meaningful life comes from effort, from struggle. And he looked around and saw society getting taken over by cynics, the people whose negative voices were always the loudest, stopping good people from even trying to do great things. He was there to push back against that hard.
And this is where we get to the core of his message. He frames this whole thing as a choice between two very, very different kinds of people. You've got the critic and you've got the doer.
I mean, just look at this contrast. On one side, you've got the critic. This is the person who plays it safe, hangs out on the sidelines, pointing out where everybody else went wrong, counting all their stumbles. But on the other side, you've got the doer. This is the person who's actually in the arena. Their face is covered in dust and sweat and blood. They're not perfect, not by a long shot, but they are in there striving.
This whole setup, this contrast, it all builds to the main event. This is the part of the speech that gets quoted over and over again. It's known as the man in the arena. And this, right here, is the heart of it all.
He starts by just completely dismissing the critic. He says the credit, the respect, it doesn't belong to them. It doesn't belong to the person who just points out flaws from a safe distance. So the big question is, who does get the credit?
And this is Roosevelt's answer. The credit belongs to the person who's actually in the fight, the one whose face is a mess, who strives, who makes mistakes, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because, and this part is so key, he says there is no effort without error. It's about the person who throws themselves completely into a cause that matters. And here is the beautiful payoff. This person, the one in the arena, they get to experience the whole spectrum of what it means to be alive. At their very best, they get to feel that incredible triumph of high achievement. But even at their worst, if they fail while daring greatly. The attempt itself becomes a kind of victory.
And that's the final, powerful jab. By daring greatly, your place in history, your place in life, will never be with those cold and timid souls who play it so safe they never know what it feels like to win or to lose. They just kind of exist. So a speech from 1910. Why are we even talking about this now? Well, because this message has become something of a lifeline for people trying to make their way in the modern world, maybe now more than any other time. Seriously, think about it. Have you ever felt totally alone in what you're trying to do? Like you're chasing something that other people just don't get, or worse, that they're skeptical about? If you've ever felt that way, you are not alone, and this message is 100% for you.
Today's man in the arena is the entrepreneur trying to build something new, the artist, the innovator, really anyone doing something that's a bit unorthodox. It's for all the people facing that constant skepticism, not just from the outside world, but from that little voice of self-doubt inside their own head. So here's the big takeaway for all of us. Roosevelt's words are this powerful reminder that what the critics think, it just doesn't matter. It can't, because they will never, ever know what it actually feels like to be you, in your arena, daring to take that chance. And this all brings us to the final and maybe the most personal question. Because this speech, when you really let it sink in, it's not just about admiring some doer from a distance. Nope, it's a direct challenge for you to become one yourself.
When you boil it all down, this is the real choice we all have to make. It's laid out perfectly right here. On one side, you've got the fear of failure, and that's real. It's the risk that you'll try and you'll fall short. But on the other side is something that Roosevelt argues is way, way heavier, the regret of not trying. That quiet, crushing weight of knowing you never even had the guts to step into your arena. So you have to ask yourself, which one of those is really harder to carry? And that is the question this 100-year-old speech leaves with us today. It's not just some cool piece of history to put in a book. It's a live call to action. It asks every single one of us to look at our own lives, our own dreams, and make a decision. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Where is the arena you need to enter?